Fellas, since this weekend it's the big one, DDP and Chimaev are going to go through all the main fights on UFC 319 and select the ideal outcome for every fight on UFC 319. So if I had full control over all the main fights, what I think would be the best possible outcome for the UFC and for the fans, this would be it. Starting off with Nursulton Ruziboev versus Bryan Battle. Now, my prediction was that Ruziboev gets it done. I think Bryan Battle moving up to the middleweight division, taking on one of the best up-and-coming guys right now in Ruziboev is a very dangerous move, especially after his last performance. But I think the ideal outcome would be Bryan Battle to get a KO win. And this is because Bryan Battle is going to do big things for the middleweight division in the sense that he is promotable as fuck. I mean, you've all seen his Octagon interviews in Paris and the one he did last year. He's probably one of the best equipped on the mic out of all guys in the UFC. His Octagon interviews last year were the best. I think if you give Bryan Battle more screen time, more time to promote himself, it's only going to do good things to the UFC. Guy's a personality, which is something that a lot of people complain is lacking in the UFC. Having him get a good KO against Nursulton Ruziboev would help promote him, man. It's got like a weird but fun style. It's a weird style as Bryan Battle. It's almost unorthodox, a bit sloppy, but it's fun to see. The beating he put on Kevin Gisette last year in Paris was fun to see. And he's usually, I know his last fight with Randy Brown wasn't that fun, but he's usually quite dangerous, heavy-handed on the feet. And I'm just a massive fan of the style of Bryan Battle. Obviously got that KO over Gabe Green in like 20 seconds. So I think if he wins, it's going to do big things to the middleweight division. He's probably going to give him someone in the top 15 of the middleweight division next if he does beat Ruziboev. So maybe like a Marvin Vettori versus Bryan Battle, which would be fun from like a build-up perspective and the fight itself, or like a Bryan Battle versus Roman Kopylov. Ruziboev's got no marketable personality. He's already lost to Joaquin Buckley last year as well, so it's not like we can promote this guy as this, new upcoming undefeated prospect. And even though Ruziboev's a fun fighter as well, usually goes out there and delivers KOs or fight of the night contenders, I'm gonna go Bryan Battle by KO. Way more promotable, probably gonna make weight a middleweight too. Decently fun style. I'm a big fan of Bryan Battle. I know him missing weight wasn't ideal and then shitting on everyone on the mic afterwards as if it was anyone else's fault, but I think if Bryan Battle can go out there, get a good highlight reel KO over Ruziboev, it would do good things for the UFC. And we've got a new contender in the middleweight division, which is something we kind of need because middleweight's lacking kind of fresh blood. We've got Randy DeRidder, but Bryan Battle will be a big addition. Anyway, Tim Elliott versus Kai Asakura. My prediction was that Asakura knocks him out. I think Asakura's going to chin Tim Elliott pretty early on, to be fair. And the ideal outcome would be just that, Kai Asakura via KO. Yeah, Tim Elliott's 58 years old now, and he fights once a year, if that. I'm sure he's a nice guy and everything, but he's not really bringing too much for the flyweight division, and he's a bit of a win-loss fighter. Not a win-loss fighter, he's winning more than he's losing, but every time he gets a bit of a step up, he ends up losing, and he is just a bit of a flyweight gatekeeper. Kai Asakura's 31, he's probably in his prime for the flyweight division, and he's not just got star potential, he already is a star. Obviously, coming into the UFC, he was a massive star coming up from Rising, he's huge in Japan. If you promote Kai Asakura correctly and he can get a good highlight reel win in the UFC, you've got a new star, which again is something that's lacking in the flyweight division. I think Kai Asakura would do big things for this division, and he's like the front runner for Asian MMA. People keep talking about the UFC growing in Japan. Bro, Kai Asakura could be the front runner in Japan. He could be that Japanese star. He could be the guy to take a UFC event over to Japan. And he's got a fun style too. You look at him in Rising, he's going out there absolutely blasting people, known for being one of the most dangerous flyweights on the planet. And I think if he gets a good KO over Tim Elliott, there's so many fun matchups for him in the division. Like imagine a Kai Asakura versus Manel Cat Pot 3, or a Kai Asakura versus a Brandon Royval, or just anybody, like any fun fighter in the top 10. I think from a star perspective and a style perspective, Kai Asakura just better for the division than Tim Elliott at this moment in time. Like if Tim Elliott wins, you've beaten Kai Asakura. That's a star that's gone from the UFC, and you're probably going to be retired within the next year anyway. It doesn't really do much. Asakura by KO would be the ideal outcome. Carlos Prates versus Geoff Neal. I think Prates is going to find the button. He's one of the most dangerous welterweights, so my prediction is Prates. The ideal outcome would again be just that, Carlos Prates via KO. Carlos Prates is one of the most dangerous welterweights on the planet. He's like one of those fighters in the UFC similar to Alex Pereira, where he's genuinely got like one-shot KO power. To the run that he was on up until that Ian Gary fight, just slumping everybody, the knee to Charles Radke, the beating he put on Li Jingliang, the knockout over Neal Magny face first to the canvas with a grazing shot. He's one of the most dangerous welterweights on the planet. He nearly finished Ian Gary as well. He was so close to finishing Ian Gary. If you had a bit of fight IQ to Carlos Prates, which is ironic because he's from the Fighting Nerds, he would have finished Ian Gary in that 5th round. So I think there's just much more intriguing matchups in this division for Prates than there is for Geoff Neal. Not that Geoff Neal's boring, but Prates versus MVP, dream fight. Prates versus Morales, dream fight. Prates versus Leon Edwards, dream fight. For Geoff Neal, he's a fun fighter, don't get me wrong, another slick boxer, but he fights once a year. He's not the most active or promotable guy, and he's already lost to a lot of guys. He lost to Ian Gary, he lost to Shavkat, he lost to Stephen Thompson, he lost to Neal Magny. So I think for the division's sake, it would be good to see Carlos Prates go out there and get a KO over Geoff Neal as well. well. Geoff Neal isn't someone we really see in too much danger on the feet. If Prates can land a slumping KO over Geoff Neal, that's going to add so much hype to Carlos Prates. People are going to kind of forget about that loss to Ian Gary. They're going to put it aside, and the hype of Carlos Prates is going to come back. I'm a huge fan of Prates, one of the most dangerous dudes in the welterweight division, one-shot KO power. If he slumps Geoff Neal that nobody else has done before, that's going to be massive for the division. And again, we've got a new guy for fun matchup. Like, imagine a Prates versus Edwards after that. So Prates by KO, ideal outcome. Jared Cannonier versus MVP. My prediction was that MVP is going to beat Cannonier by decision. My ideal outcome would be MVP via KO. Yeah, Jared Cannonier is 41 years old. I don't know how long he's going to be left. I don't know how long he's got left in this sport. And he's already lost so many times recently. Lost to Adesanya, lost to Imavov, lost to Whitaker a couple of years back, lost to Cara Barallo. It's safe to say he's never becoming a top contender, and he isn't going to go too far anymore. MVP. He only had a short run in the UFC, but he styled on Kevin Holland in his debut, which has kind of aged well. He outstruck Ian Gary. Yes, he lost the fight because of the grappling, but he still outstruck him. And he styled on Sharbulit Magomedov, another win that has aged well. MVP, I mean, he's already a star. Again, similar to Kai Asakura. He's already a guy that's got a ton of potential from a star power perspective before the UFC. So I think if MVP can KO Cannonier, that'd be massive. His first highlight reel in the UFC, because I feel like that's what MVP's lacking in the UFC. It's a highlight reel. He's got the skills. He's got the promotability. It's just that one big highlight in the UFC. If he can do that to Jared Cannonier, something that even Adesanya couldn't do, something that even Barallo couldn't do, something that most of the top contenders couldn't do, that's going to be massive for MVP. And similar to Carlos Prates, people are going to forget about that Ian Gary fight, and he's going to have a shit ton more hype if he does go back to welterweight, or even a fight with Adesanya. So MVP, Cannonier, I hope MVP knocks him out. Nothing against Cannonier, I just think it's much better for the UFC for MVP to win. And then they'll call main event Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico. I predicted that Aaron Pico's going to drop a mean right hand on Lerone Murphy and put him to sleep, and the ideal outcome would be Aaron Pico dropping a mean right hand on Lerone Murphy and putting him to sleep. Now, I don't dislike Lerone Murphy. I've got nothing against this guy, but he might be the least intriguing contender right now in the featherweight division. You've got in a division full of guys like Gene Silva, Diego Lopez, Arnold Allen, and even Movsar Evloev. I just feel like Lerone Murphy, like if there was to be a new champion out of all the contenders, Lerone Murphy would probably be at the last on my list, and maybe not the last, but he just isn't that interesting. You know, the vast majority of his wins are via decision. I mean, 7 out of his 9 fights in the UFC have all been decisions, and his most recent fight against Josh Emmett might have been the worst main event of 2025. That entire card was cursed, and his only fun fight recently has been the one with Edson Barboza back in May of 2024. Don't get me wrong, very well-rounded, good grappler, good striker, but I'm just not a fan of the style of Lerone Murphy, and he's just not really that promotable. And even he's got no highlights, even from like a microphone perspective, personality perspective. Lerone Murphy's not a promotable guy. He never really says anything. Not that he needs to. I'm not saying he needs to fake his personality, but I'm just real, not a promotable guy. Aaron Pico is a fucking behemoth. This guy's got the vast majority of his wins by KO, and he's kind of known for having that KO power before the UFC. And promotions like Bellator going out there and slumping people. Very, very dangerous guy on the feet, and I think he could really shake up the featherweight division, and having him as an addition to the already stacked featherweight roster, I think would do big things to the UFC. So I hope that Aaron Pico goes out there and knocks out Lerone Murphy. As a Brit, you know, I don't really like preying on the downfall of UK fighters, but I think for me, I'd be much more intrigued for Aaron Pico in the UFC than Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy wins, well done, you've shut down Aaron Pico, then you're just not that interesting. Aaron Pico gets a good, KO win over Lerone Murphy, shit, the new Michael Chandler's in the UFC, give him a title shot. So Aaron Pico, if he can go out there and slump Lerone Murphy, I think that would be the best case scenario, because Lerone Murphy, personality-wise and style-wise, despite being undefeated, he just ain't that promotable. And then the main event, DDP and Chimaev. Now, our prediction was that Chimaev was going to win. Not much confidence behind it. I think that Chimaev, this new version of Chimaev that has come back, especially in the Whitaker fight, is the most dangerous grappler in the UFC. But my ideal outcome would be Dricus du Plessis via some sort of TKO. Khamzat Chimaev is a fun fighter. You know, he goes out there and he ragdolls people immediately, shoots the takedown, doesn't waste time, and 99% of the time he's having success. And like I said, he's going out there and choking people out unconscious, but he would not be a good champion. And I think Dean Thomas said this, and I completely agree. First of all, he's not reliable. His fight last year with Robert Whitaker in Saudi Arabia in June, that ended up getting cancelled due to Chimaev's illness. His fight with Nate Diaz, which was a massive fight, even though it should have never got booked in the first place, he missed weight by 8 pounds, and all 3 of his fights with Leon Edwards, he was the reason that 2 of them ended up getting cancelled. Number 2, he's inactive. He fights on average once a year. Since 2021, he's been fighting consistently once a year, every year. He shows up on average once a year. DDP would be a great champion. I mean, first of all, he's trash talking his promotability. He's the best trash talker in the UFC right now, making Adesanya cry, styling on Adesanya on the mic, making him look like an absolute tosser, and then going out there and absolutely, you know, destroying, not destroying, but going out there and getting the finishes as well to back it up, finishing Robert Whittaker in the way that it is. He's a fun fighter, fun on the mic, active and he doesn't pull out. He fights on average twice a year. Most of them are fun fights. Doesn't pull out of fights as well. I think DDP via TKO would be the ideal outcome for the UFC. Yeah, if DDP can go out there and be the first guy to stop Chimaev, if he can get dominated for 4 minutes and then in the 5th round, Looney Tunes his way into victory with some sort of TKO, that would be classic DDP. He's got better mic skills, he's more active, he's more reliable, and I mean, I guess they've both got fun styles as well, so I can't talk down on Chimaev in that sense, but I just think DDP is more promotable in any way. Chimaev, he might have that one, you know, he might have that better highlight reel when it comes to shooting takedowns and getting the submission, but outside of that, I think DDP winning would do much bigger things for the UFC, and again, like I said, would be much more reliable, so I'm going to go DDP v TKO for the ideal outcome, but that would be the ideal outcome for every main fight on UFC 319. Let me know if you agree, disagree, if you'd switch anything around. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching.